Alice Hodges from Meg's House. Everybody give Alice a hand. She's the director of Meg's House, our domestic violence shelter here. Yeah, Alice was like, I don't normally do stuff like this. I said, I know. All right, we have Miss Juanita Hosey, owner of Praise Unlimited Weddings. Nita has been like a business mentor to me since I started. I've learned when Nita Hosey told me to do something just to do it, because there's been times she told me to do stuff and I didn't do it, and it cost me some money. She said, see, I told you to go do it. So I've learned when she's telling me just go do it. Don't ask no questions. I ain't got to understand why. Just go do it. And our last panelist is Miss Tora Speech. Tora is a young, I guess I would call her activist, over at Lander University. You guys give Tora a hand. And our moderator this morning is Miss Alice Jones. You guys give Alice a hand. She's going to take it from here.
Good morning. Good morning. I would just like to tell Regina, thank you for thinking of me and inviting me. And even though I don't talk to Regina all the time, she just doesn't know how much she encouraged me. You just have no idea. I look every day to see what you've posted, and sometimes it's just what I need to make it through the day. So, and I'm like, you know what? I wonder if me and Regina are sisters, because we have some of the same thoughts, the same ideas, and just feel some of the same way. So I just wanted to say, keep doing what you're doing, because you just don't realize how many people that you're actually touching and making them realize, hey, I can do this. It doesn't matter what I look like, what skin I'm in, I can do this. Okay. First of all, we're just going to go through and just let our panel introduce themselves or say something you want to say about yourself. We'll start with Ms. Alice.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's great to be here. I'm Alice Hodges, the Executive Director of Meg's House. How many of you, by show of hands, know what Meg's House is? Great. We are an emergency shelter for victims of domestic violence, and we also have programs for victims of domestic violence. We also have 3 housing programs for people who are homeless, as well as families who are homeless. That's what I do.
Of course, I've already told you I'm Nita Hosey from Abbeville, have the business Praise Unlimited Weddings, but I've also been a foster mother of 92 children. And I'm not sure why God chose that road for me, but He did. And just like Regina, I'm in the process of writing a couple of books. I didn't ever think this would happen, but one is Every Child Has a Story, and the other one, I Can't Walk This Road Again. And so He's taken me through some things, and I have been able to mentor a lot of people. One thing that God has told me the last few years is don't let what I've taught you to go away without sharing it with other people. And I teach a class at Piedmont Tech on event planning, and I tell them all the time everything, and they'll say, gosh, you told us all your secrets, everything. Well, that's God's plan. He is still blessing me in my business, even though I've given business away. I'm trying my best to put myself into other women to make sure they do it right, and what God's taught me. It's not because I had great education on it or anything, but God taught.
Well, good morning. I am Tora Speech. My heart is going a mile a minute. I'm slightly intimidated by these bullets I'm sitting next to. I don't own anything. I'm not an operator of anything. I'm just a student at Lander University. I am an advocate for domestic violence. When I walked in and saw all the purple, I was just like, oh, look at this. And I worked with Meg's House before. I'm actually a representative for Liz Claiborne's Love is Not Abuse, Love is Respect campaign. Pretty much it's a youth board that I serve. I'm actually in the running for becoming the president, so keep your fingers crossed for me. I found out at the end of this month, and I pretty much converse with youth who deal with domestic violence all across the world. I actually have a Skype meeting with a young lady next Thursday, all the way from Canada, who's going to share her story with me, so I'm really excited about that. I'm just an ordinary young lady. I'm getting ready to graduate from Lander in exactly 2 weeks, though, so that's like, no, I don't want to grow up, it's too soon. But just like these women said, I believe I've pretty much come encounter with everyone in my life for a reason, and I am so grateful, oh my God, to meet and come in contact with Miss Regina Robinson. When she emailed me on Facebook, I'm just like, someone told you to do what with me? To reach out to me? And when she did, and I talked to her on the phone for the first time, I hung up and looked at my best friend, and like tears rolling down my eyes. I was in the library studying for a test, and my best friend just happened to walk in, and I was like, I think I just met an angel over the phone. It was great. So it's great to come in contact with people who are just as motivated as you to, live your life to the best of your ability and just to be happy, because that's what it's about. So thank you for having me.
I thought of one other thing, Alice, too, that I'm also president of the Business Professional Women's Club. I'm on the Greenwood Chamber Board and the Advil Chamber Board. And a lot of people have said things to me about, oh, as a Christian, you go to those things when they're doing. We have to be the light in the world. If all of us step back and let the world decide what's going to go on, then we can't change things. So I'm continually trying to put into other people. And I've made some changes, too, so come join the chamber.
My next question is, what do you think your purpose is?
I think my purpose is to help others, first of all, to empower others, and to live my best life. But just like Regina said, it's not all about me, but the people I come in contact with who may be blessed in some way. So basically just to help others.
Purpose. Seasons. There's the first thing that came to my mind. God has had different seasons of my life that my purpose was to take care of children that someone else had let go astray. Purpose in being a children's minister at one time, but then that changed. Mission trips. God has taken my life and changed it, and we just have to be flexible and ready for what He calls us into at that time. Right now He's got me in the business mode, but I see a season changing even with some of those things, because now I'm putting myself into others to kind of step back some. At 61, I'm still trying to figure out what all my purpose is.
Well, my purpose, I feel as though I didn't realize what my purpose was until last summer when I actually got involved with the whole domestic violence advocacy. I was so intimidated. I was like, God, do not put me on this pedestal. I cannot handle this. And that's when I finally looked in the mirror and realized, excuse you, you are more than a conqueror, young lady. Put your armor on, because you're getting ready to go to war. And I'll be doggone, we've been on that battlefield and everything worked out. When you just sit back, I actually coordinated a candlelight vigil at the State House the last weekend in October. It was beautiful. We had bags with the little tea light switch candles going up the State House. Miss Sharon Tetherworth, she's actually one of the, she's the founder of a shelter in Malden, South Carolina, in the Greenwood community. She spoke, and I'm just like, looking at my costs and trying to outweigh everything. I'm like, there's no way this is going to work out. But there's something mighty about that God we serve. He works in mysterious ways. I paid nothing out of pocket. And after we put everything into an Excel worksheet, I'm a visual person, I have to see everything. It was over $2,000 worth of expenses that were paid for. Sponsors were coming out of nowhere. All I did was I wrote up this proposal, and everyone was just like, why are you even second guessing a no? Like, yes, everyone wanted to be involved, and that was just beautiful. And to see and listen to children, a child actually changed my life, a 7-year-old telling me thank you with tears in her eyes after I spoke at an event in a church. And I'm just like, sweetheart, I'm just like you. Like, the fact that she put me on that pedestal really just, it's intimidating, but at the same time, I know that this is my purpose, and my purpose is to serve, to love, to continue to pour out, because I may not have been loved as much as I would like to as a child, but now that I know what genuine love is, I know how to give it back. So that's my purpose, to serve and to love. That's what it's all about.
You did 2 questions in one. How did you discover your purpose? And once you discovered your purpose, did it make everything easy?
That's an easy question, but a tough one. I think domestic violence, I saw it as a kid in my neighborhood, but until I went to work at the Greenwood Police Department, I never really thought about it a lot and put it into the context where it really exists. So going out on the calls, witnessing people who were supposed to love one another, yelling, screaming, cursing in front of the children, it was like a culture shock. So at one point, Chief Brooks encouraged us to go out into the community and volunteer. So basically, that's how I ended up at Meg's house, by volunteering, and then later as an intern, and now as executive director. And no, it's not easy. Any of you that have ever heard any stories or been a victim, it's not easy, and it doesn't get easier as I do it.
Both of these ladies sitting on either side of me, I was just thinking that as a child, I was a product of the domestic violence in my home. My father was a moonshiner. I started writing a book on that one day, and that was depressing. So maybe one day it might be a movie, who knows. But I would have been in the foster care system if they'd have known about us. We just survived. We were, those kind of things. So as I grew up, I remember on my 16th birthday, my daddy got married the second time the day before my 16th birthday, and I was having to get up to get all the kids ready for school, and I was laying in the bed and was praying, and God said to me, you don't have to accept where you've been, you can only make a choice of where you're going. And on that 16th birthday, it turned me around. And I started thinking, because we're poor doesn't mean I have to be poor. Because I've been beaten doesn't mean I have to beat. Because, the things that were in my life. And so from there, my life just kept turning with children. I was a children's pastor for years and years and traveled all over doing puppet ministry and so forth. And I had the ability to look into that group, and I could pick out which kids were from broken homes. I can be in a group of women and they may have all their fine makeup on, all their stuff, but I can feel the pain or the hurt that some of them are going through. And sometimes when we walk through things, that's how we can have the purpose of helping others. But if you've never walked through anything, you don't plan these things. It's there and it happens. But God has used me in a lot of ways of, like I said, different seasons of my life, whether it's helping children or women or people in business or so forth. And even when I started my business, my husband was retiring early, and he said, no more long-term foster care. After you've done this 26 years of your life, you begin to think empty nest syndrome would be really fun. But we're on our last. We have a 17-year-old, so it's really rocky water right now. But he said to me, no more, and I said, can I work? Can Mama do it? And the reason I wanted to have a business and work is that in all those years that I was taking care of the children and doing all the little odd jobs and things to do, I couldn't be a giver. And I wanted to be able to give back. And so I prayed and I said, God, if you'll bless my business, I will give. And in Meg's house, even before you were director, I've actually helped with a banquet. With a lot of the other ministries around, they know they can call me. They know that I'll do it because God has blessed me, so I give back to that. And I don't do it to be showy, I don't do it to do that, but my purpose is to give back. And so God has blessed me. I ran it debt-free for 12 years. God has blessed.
I think I'll answer the second. No. I think I answered the second question first, and the answer is yes, it is easy now once I've accepted my purpose. I guess we all have something in common. Actually, when I was 6 years old here in Greenwood, I actually witnessed my mother being murdered by my biological father. December 20th, 1997. I was 6 years old, and I didn't understand that Mommy was dead until I got to that funeral and I saw them closing that casket. And I remember looking over at my brother thinking, you're gonna let them do this to mommy, like she's in a box. You know, I didn't understand it, and that's when I started crying when I saw them wheel her out, like she's gone. And the older I got, I began to struggle with insecurities. I began to struggle with life, not feeling like I was here for a purpose. Like sometimes I woke up and just wish I didn't exist. I was actually suicidal when I was 11, 13, and 16, but they didn't work, and I just didn't understand why. It wasn't until 17. I was saved when I was 6 after my mother passed, but I didn't understand that until I was 17. It took 11 years to understand what being saved was all about. And at the time I lived in a household where I felt that it was always a competition with who was the prettiest, or I never felt like I was good enough, brought home straight A's, but that didn't feel like that was enough, because it was always the baby, the young lady who was in the household who was just, to me, she was their princess, and I'm just like, well, I want to be a princess too. What is it that I have to do to feel accepted? And it wasn't until I was 17 in the church where I just completely fell on my face, and I was just like, God, I am yours, and that's all I want to be, and that's all that matters. That's all that mattered to me. And we were actually in Greenwood, and I moved back to Greenwood to go to school, and that's when I actually got in contact with Meg's house, and I began to do my reading and everything. And actually, for the first time, I spoke to my oldest brother, who was actually my legal guardian since he was 19. Some of you guys may know Brooks Bryant. That's my oldest brother. He's my legal guardian. I talked to him about me wanting to move forward with helping children who've been in my position. And ever since then, I found my purpose, and that's to share my testimony and to inspire my generation, because my generation is suffering. If you can't tell, it's a killing every day. Lord have mercy. So that's my purpose, to love, to serve, and to make my generation understand that, guys, it's okay, just relax, life is gonna be all right, stop killing each other. So, yeah, now that I've accepted my purpose when I was 21, it now makes sense, and it's so much easier. Thank you.
I'm a car baby, y'all. Sorry. Thank you all. At this time, we're going to ask if there are any questions from the floor. If any of you would like to ask one of the panel members a question.
I guess I want to know if each of you can answer this. What type of challenges did you guys face in walking in your purpose? Because I do know that when God gives you an assignment, He breathes something into you. It's a huge responsibility at times, and sometimes it can seem that it's bigger than life itself. So there's a lot of different, defeats and obstacles and challenges that you may face. But I guess I want to know what challenges you face and how did you overcome them.
I guess I can talk. We need the microphone for the recording. Okay.
I guess one of the main challenges for me was, they said the worst battles to fight is man versus self, so I was really beating myself up. I was my big challenge. Like I said before, the whole, this is too big, I can't do this, it's gonna be too expensive. Will someone really get something out of it? Will I grow? And once I realized that you have to stop walking by sight and walk by faith, and once I really start doing that, it became easy. Like I said, it all made sense. So I guess I overcame that challenge by realizing that I serve a God who's a lot bigger than my problems and my mind. So that made it a lot more, it made more sense to me, and it made it a lot more easier to cope with my purpose.
There's always challenges. The one thing that bothered me when I was younger is that my parents couldn't afford to send me to college, and I really always felt less, because I couldn't do those things. But I had a heart to teach, and I wanted to teach. So for about 8 years, I substitute taught in school. But God has such a sense of humor with us. He'll take us places that man says impossible. When I now teach at a college, I get paid. They didn't ask me what my education was. They just wanted to know that I was capable of doing what I did teach. I have taught at a Christian school. I've taught at I was principal of a Christian school. I see one of my sons bringing me something. You know, the things God's allowed me to do that the world said you couldn't do. And there's always those challenges of if we look in ourselves, it's impossible. But with God, all things are possible. And I couldn't have children. That was a big hardship for me. And this is my 21-year-old foster child that's sneaking in. He washed some aprons for Mama. You gonna come in? Oh, he won't see Miss Regina. But God allowed me to adopt children and to be mother to a lot of other children. You know, so the challenges and things that go on in your life, and then even to have the business. If it looked by my background of where I came from, it would be impossible. But God gives things in our heart, and then, you know, that purpose is there. You just have to put that foot in front of it and get over yourself. The hardest thing for me was to get over being depressed all the time. I hated Mother's Day. I hated any holidays that had to do with children and things because I had that pain of not being able to have a child. I remember also being very angry that you know, out in the world, even like Christmas was so, you know, no Jesus. Everything was, you know, sell this, and so it gets earlier and earlier every year. And I remember one day I was in the store, and I was real depressed, and at the point of many times trying to take my life because I thought, what good is my life? You know, why am I here? I'm not doing anything. And the Lord just spoke to me. I had just was buying some Christmas things for my Sunday school class and all, and He said, look for me. And I was like, it was audible almost, you know, and I'm looking around and I said, sir? He said, look for me. And I turned and there was a wreath there, and He said, it's evergreen. And He just started talking to me, and I turned, and He said, the tree, you're the light of the world. And then a candy cane, before the candy cane story ever came out, God chose to tell me about it in a store to get me over my depression. And I don't get depressed anymore at Christmas. I don't get depressed over a lot of those things. I celebrate when I find out someone's having a baby. I celebrate when I find out somebody's having, you know, victories in their life. But where I used to beat myself up, I now found out that God can turn all that around. So the challenges is coming over yourself. You're not that important. You know, with God, you can handle all these things. Without Him, you make a mess of it.
Marcus, this is probably going to sound semi-weird, but when it comes to challenges, I personally see challenges as opportunities.
Yes.
Opportunities for us to be better, or to do better, or to help someone else. So again, it sounds weird, but I see challenges as opportunities to be better.
I got one question. In terms of the people that are here, what is your final word or your advice on how they can live their purpose? What's your final thought to them?
To not fight your purpose, to embrace it, because sometimes it's right there in front of you. You're looking for something that you already have. I think sometimes people search, and the answer is right there in front of you.
That's so true, everything she said about that. Even the wedding business, I mean, it's like, where did that come from? Out of my background, how did that come from? But my parents were divorced when I got married. I didn't have anybody to help me. And I had to learn how to do it. Well, there were 9 of us siblings, and I went, oh my gosh, they're all going to have to do this too. So I took that and learned how to do it to have their weddings. Back to one of my sisters, let's see, I made her dress, her veil, I did her cake, I did all her catering. I sang at her wedding with my 9-month-old hanging onto my leg. You know, so I learned how to do that. No thought at that time that it would ever become a business. But God is always preparing you for where you're going to go. So don't shut the door when something new comes along or something, because He may be introducing you to your purpose and what you're going to do. And out of this, I have brought peace to a lot of uneasy situations with divorced families where the bride and the groom needed that peace brought to the whole situation. And if I had not walked through what I walked through, I wouldn't be able to bring that to it. So be open to hear what God is saying in your purpose. And none of it's what I thought of as a child. Where He's going to take you will determine by how much you listen.
Well, stop running came in my head. So if you feel like you're running from your purpose, just stop. Just let God have His way with you, because He's going to get you. So stop running. Walk by faith, guys. We have to. That is so important to me. My faith. I teased with my brother just last night. Oh Lord, just last night we have what we call a conference call with my siblings and I, all talk on the phone at one time. You know, to make sure that we're still in our right minds. And I told them, I said, guys, because they asked me, you know, my next move out of college, I dread that question, because I'm just like, well, I have a move, but you know, we know how I move versus God's will works sometimes. But I was teasing with them, and I said, guys, I think sometimes God probably sits back and look at me and think, girl, I know you have some faith, but I'm gonna need you to go out there and do some things for yourself, which I do, but sometimes I'm just like, I don't have money to pay that bill. Oh well, God got it. You know, whatever, like it'll happen. It will happen. I mean, I can laugh and tease about it now. Sometimes I'm just like, God, why? What is it? You know, and another thing with your purpose is, I actually talked with a young lady a while ago, and she was just like, I'm always tired. I'm serving people, but I'm tired. And I'm like, well, is that your purpose? Because I really feel like if God has destined you to do something and to be somewhere, He's not a God of confusion. He's not going to dwell misery in your life. And if you're misery from what you're doing, then that's not your purpose. You have to be happy with your purpose. So that's what it's about too, being happy. So it's all about.
Alice, any final words from you, Alice? Anything you want to share?
I was just going to say that I was just sitting here and I was listening at you all talk about your purpose, and each one of you talked about something in your background, and it just make you realize and think the very thing sometimes you think is your curse can be your blessing. And then, you know, you think the thing that you think is going to break you is actually what makes you. And I can understand exactly, because there's some things that happened in my life, and until I dealt with them, I was not able to move on. But that's the very thing that God uses every time. I could be in the grocery store and I'll just hear this conversation, and then here I go. You know, and my son said, you'll talk to people about cheese, Mama, what is your problem? But I understand and know that God is using those very things that we go through sometimes in life. And sometimes it's the things that we don't want to talk about, that we try to hide. He'll take that very thing and use it for His glory. And that's what we have to understand. Everything should be for His glory.
Amen.
Thank you so much.
Guys, give them a hand.
Thank you.